origin of my own life. Pretty fun.
Exactly. But it's fascinating to hear someone who was actually there when they're walking by with these robes.
Oh my God.
It's just
Well, no,
hilarious.
I have.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of things with the robes. I mean, when I was 3 in Manhattan, we were all in this big brownstone building. I think the group occupied the whole thing, and all of us kids lived in one room essentially. We all slept and hung out in that one room, and sometimes we'd go out to nursery school, sometimes, but sometimes not. But down on the main floor, if I remember that structure right, is where they would do these big get-togethers on Sunday. And I have very distinct recollections of the smell of incense, candles burning, people in some big robes, lots of swaying, as we sang like Sweet Chariot. And I was also baptized by being pushed backwards into a kiddie pool by somebody wearing one of those robes as well. So good memories. Good memories.
I got to ask you before I take a commercial break.
Cool.
Because I keep, I think about my own life, and when I started raising my daughter, different milestones in her life would remind me of my childhood. Now, how did you become, because I know you're a good father, you got 7 kids, you're a good man in the church there. I read a little bit about you. Now, what was there struggles in parenting because of the way you grew up? The way you were parenting?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, for the overall kind of simple policy for me is, if I think back on my childhood and think about how I was raised or how I learned certain lessons, I am going to do the exact opposite for my kids. In most cases, obviously still some kids have to learn their own lessons in their own way. But yeah, everything that was done to me in the vein of parenting or nurture, which there was no nurture, I do the opposite. So there's a lot of affection, lots of physical affection and hugs, lots of sitting down and talking for a long time, making sure my kids have no question that they have someone's, me and my wife, that they can always turn to for love, for a listening ear, someone they can trust. Because, yeah, I didn't have that growing up. And it's still a part of my life, but it's like at the time, my future sister-in-law said, I started dating this great girl who I ended up marrying. She has 6 sisters. She went back to Alaska for the summer after we met in college, and she showed a picture after telling her sisters all about me. Showed a picture of me, and her sister said, "Oh, but he looks normal." So, I mean, what? I don't know how else I was going to look, but yeah, my whole goal has been to shape what I was kind of given and what I was kind of pushed into as a child, shape it into who I want to be and who I think God wants me to be. And it's working out okay. Still some challenges, but it's working out okay.
If I have to take a commercial break, but I have so many questions.
Sure.
I can't stop myself. How did you wind up with LDS? How did you land there with that faith?
Oh, my. Well, that is several days of story right there.
Okay.
But suffice to say, when I got out, I moved into Kanab, Utah. So it's in deep southern Utah. Best Friends Animal Society's headquarters is 7 miles north of Kanab. It's a gorgeous, incredibly stunning area of the world. My father had been encouraged to leave with his wife and their daughter, who was my half-sister, a year or 2 before I finally was able to get out. And when they left, they moved into Kanab because they'd already started kind of reaching out and building a life. When I was able to get out, they let me sleep in their living room, for that school year. I moved out as soon as I was graduating, got my own apartment, but it was just circumstance, I moved to Utah. And Utah was heavily, and still is, very heavily members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so I was immediately surrounded by it. I didn't believe in God. How could I believe in the God I was taught, right? I made a choice to not believe in that. And, I was surrounded by these great kids, these young people who, had their own struggles, but they were open, sometimes quite brazen in sharing their feelings about God and religion. And they got me to go to church one time after inviting me 100 times. And I had no interest at all until finally something happened where God made himself known to me just undeniably. And I reached for some answers after finding that out. And the answers were found in the book of Scripture called the Book of Mormon. And immediately I said, that's obviously what I'm supposed to do. Felt like I got confirmation from Father in Heaven and joined the church and was a missionary a year and 4 months later. And it's just been a ride ever since. And now I'm a bishop of a ward. So, I mean, I'm not going to share the sacred things that brought me there, but there were sacred things that brought me to where I am today.
All right, let's take a little commercial break. We are with Jared Garret. His podcast is called Tales from a Cult Insider. You can meet him in person in Provo, Utah at Life, the Universe, and Everything. And the name of his book is, what is it, Beyond the Cabin. Beyond the Cabin. And we'll be right back with more. I mean, you can find his website is jaredgarret.com. We'll be right back with more Mr. Garret right after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host private investigator Ed Opperman. Hey, I forgot to mention Silk City Hot Sauce. Go to silkcityhotsauce.com, and what do you get? If you use promo code ED, E-D, you get 15% off of the greatest hot sauce in town, and also, too, you get a free bottle of hot sauce as well thrown in. silkcityhotsauce.com. We're talking today to Garret from Utah, and he's talking about his book, which is called Beyond the Cabin. Okay, and then you got his website is jarrettgarrett.com, and his podcast is called Tales from a Cult Insider. You can meet him in person in February in Provo, Utah at Life, the Universe, and Everything. Now, let's see. Jarrett, got so many questions for you. You mentioned Tim Wiley, right? Now, one of the things Tim Wiley talks about in his book, he says, we were going around and we were doing these little ritual type things, and we started to see miracles happening. And you mentioned rituals in an article I read about you. Describe the rituals.
Well, I can describe a couple.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, the main Sunday ritual was just any old Sunday service that you would expect. Some teaching, some hymns and prayers and stuff like that with music. But it was always ended with a kind of a revelation, as they called it, or just basically a sermon. Part of that typically was people could go up and say their own personal prayers at the altar. The altar, as long as I remember, was this rather beautiful, pure, clear glass table, very simple lines, and on it were, on one side was a bowl of water, and sometimes there was also a bowl of olive oil, and on the other side was a lit candle, and there was often incense involved. So to go up, people were to go to the altar or table, pass their finger through the flame, dip their other hand's finger into the water or the oil, clasp their hands together, and then they would offer their prayer. And people would do this sincerely, as far as I could tell, sincerely. I suppose part of it could have been show. That was the most common ritual I saw. But I also was baptized when I was, 3, in a manner of baptism. Somehow several kiddie pools showed up in New York full of water, and I was brought in and made to sit with my back to the kind of the outside wall of a pool, and then I was pushed backwards after somebody said some sort of word until my head was held under the water. And it was held under far longer than I had any desire for it to be held under, contributing to a lifelong fear of water. And, hey, I was baptized. Hey, here we go. I also got to see a couple of times people being admitted into the cult. And this was kind of interesting. I would see these folks brought up, and they would, I think, typically be wearing some kind of robe. I should say that the people who were ministering in these ceremonies were typically wearing either at least very nice clothes, but often wearing some sort of flowing robe, kind of a la the priest and stuff like that. I don't wear that stuff. I just wear a suit to church, but maybe robes would be fun. But people who were being admitted, there was a whole scripted ceremony. So the person who's ministering the whole thing would say something along the lines of, are there any who would like to be joined to the faith at this time? And somebody in the gathered attendees would say, there is one, or there are two. And the person would say, let them come up, or let them enter here. And so they would go up, and then the person would anoint them with a bit of soot from the fire, a bit of oil and water, put their hands on their forehead, say some sort of admitting prayer, and then that was it. A couple of times it looked like they may have given them a little shove on their forehead, so they stumbled backward. And there was often someone standing behind to catch, just in case they were overtaken or something like that. But I don't remember seeing any. I think I saw somebody fall once in New York, but I'm not sure why they would fall.
Now, this ritual,
that's pretty much all I remember.
The ritual with the oil and the water and the candle is. Have you studied that and traced it back to find out where they came up with that, or is this something original to the process?
I haven't studied where they got that. It seems real. I mean, it seems like a fairly kind of ancient Christian type of thing. I mean, altars are all throughout Jerusalem and the people of Israel. Burning things on altars is also all throughout that.
True.
So I'm not surprised by that. And, olive oil, there's some symbolism there with olives and stuff like that. And heck, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we use olive oil as well to anoint. So I haven't been curious enough to trace it back to its origins in the cult or otherwise.
Now, since you started doing the podcast and you wrote the book, have you